there's no permanent condition or anything to it, and he'll heal up and never know the difference. But it's hard when a baby. So anyway, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our study of the Manual for Teachers. I explained to folks earlier, we are just going to go for an hour tonight because today is my husband's birthday, and I want to spend some time with him on his birthday. So I'm sure you all understand that. Uh, and Nicole, I see you came in an hour ago. Looking for, I know our time change probably got you all messed up, but good to see you. Oh, your husband's birthday was yesterday, Ozzy?
Yeah, yes. It's November 18th, 52 now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, how old is my husband now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's like 68.
Wow.
Maybe he was born in 56. So maybe 69 he might be. He's a couple years younger than me. I'm 70, so I don't know. He doesn't know either. If you ask him how old he is, he would not be able to tell you because these are things we don't really pay too much attention to or care too much about. See, I'm in a cosmic place tonight. I was trying to change up my uh, screen here, and maybe that's not. I could be in a golden place. That's all kind of cool. But or I could be in ACIM Gather. See what I did? I put on some new stuff. Anyway, but no, here's my regular room. So here we are, where you normally see me. So anyway, good evening, everybody, and I'm grateful to have you all here with us. We are in the section of the Manual for Teachers that's called "What is Death?" And so the last couple of weeks we've had some pretty lively discussions about death and what does it mean. But we still have a couple more paragraphs to go. So let me get this up here. And we ended up, I'm not sure if we read paragraph 4. I think we did, but uh, we can read through it again. We have a few more paragraphs of this. So um, I think paragraph 4 is the one that says, oh, yeah, that we have this idea that, if you die, you still go on. You go on to another life, you go on to another body, you go on to another, um, another, someplace else, someplace different, heaven or hell or another life or whatever. But the whole idea is that there is no death. And let's see, there is either a God of fear or one of love. The world attempts 1,000 compromises and will attempt 1,000 more. Not one can be acceptable to God's teachers because not one could be acceptable to God. Death itself is not acceptable to God. It's nothing that he made up. It's nothing that he has anything to do with. It's nothing that he has any investment in. It is actually an insult to God to say or to think that something that he made could die. And so uh, he didn't make death because he didn't make fear. And both are equally meaningless to him. And so I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that or anything that they'd like to share. And I'm going to try to figure out if are you guys actually seeing the text now? This is another thing. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yes, you are, because I'm just switched over to see. So would anybody like to share or have anything over this past week that's come to them about this that they any revelations or new thoughts or ideas? Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Didn't Jesus say, "O Holy Son of God, swear not to die"? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
keep thinking about that one when I feel like I'm dying. Sometimes it's not real. So that's my thought on that.
Exactly. Yeah, Dove, go ahead.
Yeah, well, lesson 63 speaks directly to it. It says there is no death. That's lesson 63. And another place, which is like one of my favorites, lesson 152, the power of decision is my own. In the first paragraph, it says, no one dies without their consent. So it's like there's a part of us that comes here to learn a lesson. And once the lesson is learned, or maybe we're part of someone else's lesson, which is a possibility, once we complete that, it's time to exit stage left, which we call death.
Yes, and what is it that happens then? Um, because I've read like several times in the course where he's talked about that those that have gone before us still are hanging around, and they can give us their thoughts into our minds. They can appear to us in a personal, like in a body. They can whisper something in our ear or help us with an experience once we, the entity that we think we are, have left this. And when we're talking about leaving, we're not talking about actually leaving or going anywhere. It's just like we move into the reality of what we are, where right now we're living in a very limited, I'm in a very limited state, Colorado. Now, I'm in a very limited state in that I have to deal with the limitations of the body, the limitations of the brain, the limitations of the thought process, the thinking. Everything is so limited. The limitation of vision. I can't see through the walls into the other room. I can't see, 100 miles away, what's happening to, my brothers, whatever. I'm limited so much in this state of being that I think I am, that is a body. But the reality of what I am is unlimited. So as we move from this consciousness that is this limited state of being into a consciousness that is more reflective of what we truly are, we might even be visible to other people. We might not even be, in fact, we are not actually visible because we're not the body, we're not the thing. So, we can move through time and space. We could, see our friends 100 miles away. There's so many things that we could do if we were not limited by this body. So that's what I think as we move along in this progression of consciousness, which, it starts, I mean, obviously, you start as a baby and you have really zero consciousness of what is. You come in as a baby, you don't know what the heck anything is. And we talked last week about Helen Keller, and she didn't know what anything was until she was, older, but she knew what she experienced, but she didn't know anything outside of that deaf and blind space where she was at. And that's how we are right now. We're in that deaf and blind state. And as we become more conscious, we evolve as a being. Not that we've changed in any way at all. Our consciousness just has become more conscious of more of what we are and what we have. So, you know, death, is just shutting down that whole consciousness, saying it doesn't, I'm not experiencing that particular being of the body of Lynn anymore. But what I am is so beyond that the what appears to be the body of Lynn that's conscious is a nothing burger. It doesn't even exist. Karen, please go ahead.
A nothing burger. Oh my God, I love that. That's funny. Yes, I love everything you just said, and I agree with it. and I want to piggyback off of what Dove said about lesson 152, that no one dies without his own consent. And I think it's interesting because I think in my experience with people in my life who have passed, they died of their own consent, but it was a conscious decision. I believe it can happen unconsciously too. Like I think we already plan this before we get here. I think the script is written, but my father developed lung cancer very young at age 60, and he was in a very toxic relationship. And I'll never forget, he said, I welcome death than live in this hell. I mean, he was suffering in this relation. I mean, it was a horrible situation, but he chose it. He actually chose that situation, but he also chose to get out of it. And it was a very sad situation because he left behind 3 small children at the time. So he chose to die. He left at 60 years old, got very, very sick with lung cancer, and really couldn't wait to get the hell out of here, to tell you the truth. He couldn't wait to get away from this woman who was driving him to death. But I can't blame her. I don't blame anyone. But I mean, in his state of mind, he chose to die. And my husband also chose to die. Consciously, he committed suicide, and he actually said, I want to see the other side. He said, I'm done with this world, there's nothing here. Like, he got that, and I respect that. Like, I actually respect that, and I actually think it was very brave what he did. I mean, a lot of people think that suicide is a selfish thing. I think it's a very brave thing that he did, and he was suffering and he chose to take his life. And then the third situation was my girlfriend, best friend for 17 years. She had a liver disease, but she could have gotten a liver transplant, and she chose not to. She chose to die. And she told me she was very, very vain. She said, I don't want to grow old. She said, I'd rather die. I don't want to grow old. I want to leave now. So they all chose it. So I think it can be a very conscious or unconscious decision. That's all. Thanks.
That's such an interesting discussion here, because you would think, okay, the most reason that people don't want to die is because they don't know what's going to happen next, or they fear for the future, or they think, I'm going to be disappeared, I'll be gone. If you were really comfortable with being no longer in this world, of being no longer alive, wouldn't you willingly give up the ego and give up your belief in the form of the world? We fight so much giving up the ego because why? We think that that's what we are, and that will no longer exist if we let it go, or will no longer exist. But to willingly die, which we do, we do that. If what that must, to me, take so much faith that it's not the end, and that people who actually choose to die do so because they don't believe it's the end. I'd rather be dead than old. I mean, that's that's a pretty crazy choice. Does that mean then that you expect that you're going to be young and alive in another life, and that you're going to have that opportunity to continue to be alive? Because that's what I think, I don't know. What do you think? Does anybody have a absolute no doubt about it? I know Glorian, because she had a near-death experience and came back, and she's pretty sure that's not going to be the end of her. I think it because my mother told me about it. But what do you think, Dove? Go ahead.
I mean, I had said that that's my favorite sentence in lesson 152. I think that gives me a lot of peace. It just does, because I accept everything that the Course says as gospel truth. And if it's gospel truth that no one leaves without their own consent, it just makes so much sense. And, if you look at the idea that the world is nothing more than a giant classroom where you come here to learn lessons, and when your lesson is complete, it's time to leave. Which takes out all the fear that the ego has, where I'm not going to live my full 80, and and I'm going to be denied life and all the things that go with death. No, when it's time to leave this play, you're a walk on. Entered stage right. You walk across the stage. You do your thing, and you exit. That's it. I mean, it makes it so simple, really.
Yeah, and I think that's really a beautiful way to look at it. Um, I personally think as long as I have something else to look forward to, I don't want to walk across that stage. I mean, I don't want to exit that stage. I want to still be on the stage as long as the play is going on. So, and I think that's how most people think. I want to see my children, I want to watch my daughter get married. I want to watch my grandchildren grow up. I want to be here till, so and so graduates, or, we have all these, I have more of the story that I want to keep living. And at what point do you give up and say, I don't want the story anymore? I'm done with it. And so I'm ready to go. I don't know if I'll ever be done with the story. I mean, I mean, I'm being honest. The story fascinates me still. And I still want to see what's going on. So, I mean, I recognize that it's a joke and it's not real. And I recognize that it's just a story. But man, is it fun to be alive. Auntie, please go ahead, honey.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Lynn. Fun to be alive. Did I wreck my, okay. I want to just say about an experience I had decades ago where I just felt that the best thing to do would be not for me to not exist. And I decided to sit in the car with it running. So I listened to music, and I remember looking at the clock. I don't know how many hours. I don't even know. I can't even tell anybody about time, but I did fall asleep. And then the next thing I remember is the car door opening and something picking my shoulder. I felt my shoulder like this going out of the car, and I didn't walk. I just know I moved to the door, the garage door, and it opened. And then I felt I was in this body, and I stepped off of the cement pad, and the body collapsed. And I don't know how long, but then I woke up and went inside and haven't really ever talked about it. I think I said it. I think Lynn and I talked about it, but yeah, I still don't know. I don't know what I think of when I guess I feel there's gratitude for knowing that there's something else to do, somewhere else to be truly helpful. And I do believe in oneness and that love can prevail. And I am not this body. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank whoever, whatever entity that was that jerked you out of that car. Because I'm grateful that you're a part of my life. So I just You know, what would the world be without you? You know, I'm grateful for that. It's so beautiful that whoever did that, thank you. And I hope you're there for me when I'm when I'm in a dark place too. Thank you, Ozzy. Nicole, please go ahead.
Oh, and I have my own war story like that. You know, I sometimes call them war stories, like from those times. Dove's probably heard this before, but I had one time in my life, I was 21, where I just really wanted to die. I'd had enough. And I tried to throw myself off a high building first. I didn't succeed. Someone stopped me. It was who was my partner at the time. I was very traumatized and just wanting to die. He stopped me, and I grabbed a steak knife and I stabbed myself in the chest because I just wanted to die. And I woke up in the hospital later, and a doctor said to me, "Young lady, I don't know how you still here, because the knife that you used somehow hit your rib and snapped in half and went sideways." He said it's a miracle. That's what he said. It's a miracle that you're here today. Clearly something or someone wants you to be here. Obviously you have some purpose to fulfill. Yeah. And in that moment, I knew that was true. I knew I was here for a purpose and for a reason. And so that was the last time I ever experienced any of that. That was the last time I ever wanted to die. And I knew somehow, some way, there was a purpose for me to be here. But I have my own story like that. And I did see it like as being some kind of divine intervention or something like that too. That's how I saw it, you know. So anyway, I'm sorry, especially on the tail of what Audrey was just saying, sharing a story like that. But gosh, miracles abound, you know. And when you were sharing earlier, Lynn, about limitations of all these things, I have been experiencing just such a beautiful shift in the last couple of days. I'll probably talk about it some more later. But it was around the idea of assuming complete responsibility. And I've been reviewing my life, and I'm sure it's no accident. I've been looking back at some of the darkest times in my life, and seeing the belief systems I had, my illusion of myself, identification with littleness, and seeing the goodness and good things and the you know, happiness and abundance and all of these things as being dependent, or you could say limited. Dependent, whenever we see something as dependent upon something external to us, we are seeing ourselves as limited. And I experienced this moment of amazing, beautiful forgiveness in seeing, wow, assuming complete responsibility and just acknowledging, because, you know, how I had seen myself as so limited and seeing myself as all the things I wanted in my life as being dependent on this person, this thing, people's places and things arranging themselves, right? And what I've seen and what I realized, right, is we've all experienced and seen that there's some kind of grand orchestration at play, that there's something working behind the scenes, that we're not alone. You know, we've experienced amazing miracles in our life. And, you know, these are examples of that, right? What Audrey and I, as seemingly, you know, sad and all of that, these are just little examples of those kind of things, right? And what I had seen is that my beliefs, right, while they may limit, okay, they may limit that the Holy Spirit and God from planning, you know, caring for me. You know, what's that saying? Who can plan better for your safety and joy? Is that it? For your that? Okay. The Holy Spirit always finds a workaround. It always finds a way, but we set the limits through our beliefs. And, you know, as we let go of these beliefs of the care of God or the care of the Holy Spirit being dependent upon this or that and this and that and this, as we let those go and we see, wow, we're one. Do you know what? The Holy Spirit accounts for the free will of everyone. How's that? That's amazing. It accounts for it. It accounts for seemingly separate interests. It accounts for the free will. It accounts for all these things that we think limit us. It accounts for all these things we think we're dependent on. It's amazing stuff. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that so much, Nicole. And it is so perfect because not only does the Holy Spirit account for the free will was given to us so that we could express ourselves in whatever way we wanted to, because God doesn't want to limit us. God basically says you can be whatever you want, you can have whatever you want, you can live however you want, and you know that gives us the freedom of total expression of anything that we want to experience. And the you know the reason we're experiencing these things, why? So that
Yeah,
because we want them. It's a
and
gift.
including seeing ourselves as little, seeing
Yeah,
ourselves as limited, seeing ourselves as dependent. You know,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, I will mute.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nicole. Sharon, and then Karen. Go ahead, Sharon.
No, I just wanted to say that I was taking the trash out when Audrey was talking, came back at the end, but I think that what you shared, Audrey, is going to be so helpful for all of us, because this undoing does sometimes come with a lot of uncomfortable feelings. You know, that's what I'm feeling. I didn't hear the whole thing, and you know, but I just know that I think you're so precious, and I just I love that you spoke up like that, because you're helping all of us whenever we just tell the truth of where we're at, what's going on. It's so helpful. And when I have been in so many groups, and I say this a lot, but I love the way you handle people. You're just so loving. Like it's like your voice, the way you I can't even put in words how grateful I am. You just have a heart of gold. You all do. But she's like doing all this to make us all grow together. And I just am so grateful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for that, Sharon. Well, yeah, it's because I want you guys so much. I don't want to be alone. You know, I don't want to
You're
be alone.
sweeter than sweet, though. You're so sweet. It's the sweet.
No,
When people are that sweet, you feel God. You just do. Because it's just
God
like we're
bless
being
you.
heard, we're being seen, we're being loved. And the way you spoke to Audrey and said, you know, I hope you're there for me. That's all. That's why we're here. We're walking each other home. We're not competing who wakes up, because well, we're all one. So it's one wake up. So it's
Exactly.
not about a competition. It's about love. Love is unconditional. And I find that there's the ego's arrogant, and there isn't arrogance in this group at all. There's such a beautiful love, and it's so unconditional. Anyway, I'm sorry I go on and on about it, but
Thank you for that, Sharon. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what Jesus is doing. He doesn't want to go home without us. And he can't go home without us. What would Dad say? You know, that's That's how I think too. I can't go home without my brothers and sisters. What would dad say? Get out there and get them, bring them back home. And that's what we're here for. We're here to bring the sonship home. And I mean, I spend my whole life, practicing, learning, doing all these different things, and finally have come to the conclusion that, the end of all that learning is done. Now it's just time to just do it. And that's, I and we all go home together. Everybody's coming to my house and we're going to have a big party, that we're all going home. So I'm excited about that, and I'm grateful that everyone's joining me here. Karen, please go ahead, and then Ozzy.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Sharon. I love what you just shared, and I agree. Lynn, as we all are, but I could say Lynn is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit for sure. Absolutely. What I wanted to share was again about what Dove said about lesson 152. It just occurred to me, and no one dies without his own consent. He also says in the third obstacle to peace and the attraction of death, that no one can die unless he chooses death. So, but what I'm remembering, what the Course is teaching us, that death is a thought that we could be separate from our Creator. So it has nothing to do with the body. This is the idea. No one can die without his own consent to be separate. So that's what's coming to me right now. And he tells us in this, the third obstacle, which is the attraction of death, he actually tells us, it's a very, just get to the part. I don't want to read the whole thing because it's too long, but he says that the sentence sin would lay upon him, he can escape through your forgiveness. This is no arrogance. It is the will of God. What is impossible to you who chose his will as yours? What is impossible to you who chose his will as yours? What is death to you? Your dedication is not to death, nor to its master. When you accepted the Holy Spirit's purpose in place of the ego's, you've renounced death, exchanging it for life. We know that an idea leaves not its source, and death is the result of the thought we call the ego, as surely as life is the result of the thought of God. So for me, that's also very comforting because it's reminding me that there is no death. The Son of God is free. We are all free. It is not about the body. It's never about the body. And when the body physically, whatever you want to call it, disintegrates, dies, turns into dust or whatever, that as Lynn said at the top of the hour, our consciousness lives on. The mind lives on. We're still one, and that never changes. So I just felt that was very comforting. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Karen. And yeah, it's before we become the worm food. And actually, we're worm food now because there's lots of things that are eating our bodies that are, I mean, it's all the same. Ozzy, go ahead, honey.
Oh, thank you so much, you guys. It just is so interesting how the conditioning takes over, and there's just this, even putting up my hand again, it just was like thump, 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 like just this fear, it's like, wow, I was listening and aware of what my mind is saying and doing as we talk about this. And I mean, how do I not know all possibilities exist? And maybe in some parallel, I did die because I saw these flashes of all these things that could have happened and might have happened and maybe and should be. And I don't know anything. I can only be aware of what's here because I'm in this space right now. But I'm open because I know I hear, you know, people are like, you shouldn't be airing stuff so serious online. I hear stuff, people saying that in my mind. I've heard it in groups, and I'm like, why not? Like, why can't we talk about it? Otherwise, I mean, not to this point of regurgitating the story over and over, but that was a huge thing for this one to overcome, to do that. And I could feel something in this body shifting, even like there is something happening that this person that thinks it is can't know about. And I'm not that. That's crazy, isn't it? And I'm just so grateful there's a space where we can talk about this and recondition the mind, I guess. I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that's really what I mean. You just express it so beautifully. It is crazy to think that we're this limited thing. It's crazy to think that this is all that we are, and that the life that I live, 70 years so far of my being here is the sum of all my being, when when the creation of God is unlimited. So how is it that I can only know this much and not even this much of it? It's not, there's not, it seems impossible. If I'm the son of God and I am one with my Father, that all I can know about his creation is this little tiny life of 70 years in this little tiny body in this little tiny world. That doesn't even make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And so if God is this vast being that has and knows everything, and I'm one with him, then the only thing that's limited is my what I want to it's like I want to look at the whole universe through a tiny little peephole. Like there's, like you're looking through the peephole in your door and you're trying to figure out what's going on, but you can't figure out anything because the hole's so small, and you really just have to open the door, if that makes any sense. Just open the door and come out, and then you see, all the things that are going on. But if all you can do is look through the peephole, then that's going to be the size of your world. Nicole, please go ahead.
I'm sure that we've all experienced this, like I call them like, I joke around and call them like glitches in the matrix, but like those impossible things that take place that just, there's the mathematically impossible. You know what I mean? Like the odds are, like this grand and glorious orchestration that takes place, like the weirdest things, and it can seem to make no sense, but sometimes they're just glimpses to allow us to experience, like, and the more you experience it and you realize, wow, it's not a world, like this is just impossible. And it can be silly little things, like for example, when I went, I'd crashed my car back quite a while ago, and I went to buy a new car, and I needed a car really quickly. And the car I went to go and see, and I might have mentioned this before, but the number plate said LLK on it. And I went and I saw that as a sign, and I went, yeah, I'll get that car. And I'd had it for about a year before I realized that the number plate, and I'd missed completely, was 212, which is my twin daughter's birthday. They're born on the 2nd of December. I was like, what are the odds? And if you actually look at what are the odds of 3 numbers being in that positioning, it's something like 1 in 1,000. And yeah, it just happened. and so many different things, you know, like I experienced one time, you know, because I had a 12-step background too. So the whole let go, let God thing is, you know, is inclusive of whatever I see as limiting me, whatever I see as being a problem, whatever I see as just letting go and trusting somehow to work out. That's where we open the door to these kind of experiences, you know. So there's been things like I remember one time for Christmas dinner, I had a reputation for being late at the time. And I was really concerned because we were running late for Christmas dinner. And I had to drive. It was about an hour drive to get there. And on the drive, I went just into this state of full-on holy instant connection. I had the girls in the car, I was playing music and just completely let go and let God. And I show up expecting everyone's going to be sitting around the dinner table, right? And we show up late. And I get there and there's no one there, right? I'm like, what's going on? This is weird. No one's here. And then suddenly my sister pulls up in the car with shopping bags and says, oh, I'm running late. Can you help me with getting the last of the Christmas lunch together? And I was like, oh my gosh, we friggin' time traveled somehow. We time traveled. And that's not the first time I've experienced that, right? Another time I had where I needed a healing session. I was really upset. And I had to go and pick up my girls from school in 10 minutes, right? But instead of not doing it, I connected in with Jesus. And just because I had stuff coming up from my past and things, and I needed like a healing session. And anyway, I was like, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I let go. I let God. All right, I'll do this. And I was there for like, honestly, about an hour. And every now and again, I looked at the clock and it was like time froze in order for me to have this healing session that I needed with Jesus. You know what I mean? And so I had the healing session. I was able to get there and pick them up in time as they were coming out. I've experienced so many things like this. Honestly, it's like, you know, we're saying like, you know, talking about we're experiencing this tiny little thing. We're not. We're actually experiencing all of it now. It's just that we're experiencing it within the scope of our allowance. And just like how we say love waits on welcome and not on time, so does all this, you know, so does all this more that's outside of our scope, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and anyway, and I know this stuff sounds, you know, wild and that, but we've all experiencing these little things. Another one that I experienced, the last one I'll mention, because there's been so many, was one time I was trying to work on letting go of my limitations around money, right? In the context of ACIM and 12 steps. And I experienced this incredible miracle one time where I had no money in my bank. I didn't know how we were going to eat that night and things like that, me and my daughters and things. And suddenly there was money in my bank account, right? And I was like, I've gone in to check whether I had enough, you know, to like buy something really small, like worth a few dollars. And here was this money in my bank account. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. Someone, you know, where did this money come from? And I've gone and looked back through my statement to see, did something go back in? Was there some refund? There was nothing. There was no explanation whatsoever. It was almost like the script just got rewritten, or I'd just been transported into some kind of parallel universe. 1 minute I'm there with no money in my bank account, struggling, and the next minute I've suddenly got $350 in my bank, and there was no explanation for how it got there. So, you know, and the more we experience these things and realize it's not a world. It's not. This is all God. It's amazing. It's unexplainable, freaky stuff, mate, you know? And we are so much more than we've ever imagined. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here nodding my head because that's exactly, I've had so many of these things happen before in my life too. Time shifting or money or finding money, just finding money when I needed money, laying on the ground. I mean, there's just, thinking, oh, that was a gift or something. No, it just was always there. And I just saw it. And that's what I think is happening is it's here. It's all these things are here. We're just not aware. And so, yeah, because if all lives are happening all at once and all time is happening all at once in this moment now, then we can reach into any part of it. We can reach into what people consider the past. We could reach into what people, because there's no past and there's no future. It's all happening right now. So it's just dipping into the reality we need to be in at the time we need to be there. And that's um I heard a story today, um kind of was very interesting to me. This girl was talking about she had gone to a football game, like a high school football game, and they had those big high bleachers, which if you've ever been at an outdoor stadium here at a high school in America, they have these bleachers outdoors, and they're pretty dangerous. They're, you're sitting up there, and they were up at the very top or very high with family with a little girl who was like 4 years old, and their team was winning. They were jumping up and yelling and being excited, and this girl, she was all excited about a play on the field, and all of a sudden it's like everything went silent. The world around her just went silent, and everything around her just totally focused, and she looked over, and there was a man who was standing a few aisles away or whatever, and he was just staring at her. And he looked at her, and then he looked at this little 4-year-old girl who was there with their party, and he looked at her and he looked at the little girl, and all of this, and just all of this silence. And she was like, what is going on? She was like, a young girl, like in high school. What's going on? She's thinking. And then all of a sudden, the sound came back, everything came back, and people, started to sit down in their seats. And when that little girl started to sit down in her seat, she slipped and fell through the bleacher. And she would have fallen like all the way to the ground and probably be killed. But because this man had focused this girl on the little girl, she saw it and grabbed her and saved her life. And she said, everybody thought it was really great that she had great reaction and she saw this little girl and she caught her and saved her life. And she never told anybody about the man or the silence or anything. She never, she just, because she thought it would be just too weird. But, that's the kind of thing that happens is, things will happen and you'll get focused. And that's what your story, Audrey, reminded me of. That man, like Meet Joe Black, was right there grabbing her or helping, giving her, pointing her, take care of this thing. I think that's happening more than we know. Sharon, please go ahead.
When you were talking about like there's so much more here, it brought me to a place when my father was dying, and I was watching him die. He his voice changed. He was scared, and then you just knew he was still my father. And then my mom and my dad both, before as they were dying, their voice changed, and all I heard was "Come on, come on." And they both said that. So what I feel is when we get out of this filter that we believe is real, there's all these light beings because it's all there is, right? So when his voice changed, my sister was like, what's that? It's not daddy's voice. But I was already a course student. So I kind of thought, well, maybe that's just another voice, because that's all there is here. You know, we think there's an image, but there's no image. There's just an image, because this body is all it is consciousness, and it's made up of mostly water. So it's like, it's so fascinating. Like, my friend came over for dinner, and she met someone who can see through her filter. She can see like these light beings she sees like there's so much here, but we can't see it because the filter is blocking everything, you know? So it's kind of exciting, you know, and then the book that we're doing now, the heart of, I'm forgetting the name of it.
The Age of the Heart
is now on Audible. So I'm loving that, you know, and I'm also loving, and yes, if you do that, I just think that all of this gives us like a whole different feeling, knowing that this is not it, you know, this is just for now. But, you know, there is no death. There's no death. We don't know, but not knowing is getting more comfortable, because egos never like not to know. And at this point, I really don't know what happens when we die. So I leave it open. But there is so much more here. When my father's voice changed, it became a very strong man's voice, and he was dying. So, and they kept saying, come on, like that. And my sister and I were looking at each other, who's that? But that's what I'm saying. We just don't know. It's just beautiful. I love every part of this path now. It's just so perfect.
Thank you, Sharon. That is really very cool and very beautiful. And yeah, when you notice something like that, it has to affect you. It's just, yeah, beautiful. Karen, please go ahead.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks for sharing that. And as you were saying, you know, I don't know, you helped trigger something in my mind. I remembered when, because you were talking about your parents' voice changed. My husband, a couple days before he died, he called me and he left me this message, and he kept saying over and over, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't. And he kept saying, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, he was so just didn't know. And I just remember him. He just kept saying that. And, you know, he's very depressed, very sad. But that was one thing he kept repeating over and over. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. And I'll never forget that, because it was, his voice did change. And the way he said that, it was just so like, I can't even, I couldn't even really comprehend it at the time, but I think he was just so confused about what to do, because he knew he wanted to do what he was planning. I think he was planning it, but he just didn't know, you know, he wasn't sure. And until he was sure, then I think that's when he did what he did. I think he was in that limbo part, you know, where he just didn't know. And then once you know the truth, and you know that we are one, and that there is no separation, and that he wasn't afraid anymore. He knew that there was nothing to fear when he jumped. He just knew it, you know. I believe that. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I do believe that in my heart. So you just kind of made me think of that. So thanks.
That is really beautiful. And yeah, I guess, you know, when you come to the place of not knowing, then there's nothing to anticipate. It just, I don't know. That's beautiful. Nicole, please go ahead.
I was just thinking about what Karen was saying earlier, and about how no one goes except by their consent and all of that kind of thing. And I was reflecting back on that story I told earlier, where I said it was the one time where I really wanted to die. The truth is, like, I was listening to you speak afterwards. That's actually not true. It's not true. It wasn't that I wanted to die. It was that I wanted out. I wanted out. I wanted out from my illusion of myself in this world. I wanted out from the illusion of circumstances I wanted in. And I didn't believe, you know what I mean? Maybe that's why. That's why, because it wasn't death that I wanted. That's not what I was consenting to. I just saw myself in an illusion of desperation at that time, and I could see no out, and I wanted out. And yet out came, as I came to realize and see, that my perceptions, the way I saw the world, was not real. It was an illusion. My perceptions of myself was not real. Um, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's where there can be a difference. Thank you. I don't think I did want to die at all. I just wanted out of my illusion. Thanks.
Yeah, just want a little bit of relief, maybe, and to relax and not be afraid. There's just so much that you think there's an answer, and we get the idea that death is going to be an answer to that. And fortunately, Jesus tells us, no, it's not, because if you're going to be afraid, you're going to be afraid in another place, in another way. So you need to get over that fear and remember the truth. One more question, or Karen, and then I'm going to be going here. So please go ahead, Karen, and take your
Just
time.
really quick, thank you, Nicole, for sharing that, because I do believe that I would say most people that commit suicide, when after they talk about it, when they don't, they actually don't do it, they don't commit suicide, they say that they really didn't want to die. They just couldn't stand the pain anymore. It was the pain. They were in so much pain that's what they wanted that to end. They really didn't want their life to end. So I think that's important for people to hear that are considering committing suicide, that there's so much help out there now. There's so much help out there. They don't have to be in that pain. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Karen. And yeah, that is so true. And um, when my sister committed suicide, and I just when I recognized afterwards how much pain she had been in, and I was so unaware of it. I think you guys talk about Lynn, you're so compassionate and so loving, whatever. When my sister died, I realized that I had really not saying I'm guilty, but I had really let her down, because I talked to her almost every day, or like 2 or 3 times a week anyway, and I had no notion whatsoever that she was suffering like that, because we just talked about family and things we were doing and whatever. And so I realized that our relationship was really a lot of it. She was just trying to um, keep me happy, and be loving to me. She did not want to burden me with her upset and her fear. And I realized that how how can you be so close to somebody and not see how much pain they're in? And I just realized that I don't even know that my relationship with her was very selfish and very self-centered, and not saying that I'm guilty in any way at all. Just I just recognized that my communication was not the kind of communication that I wanted to have with anybody if they were going to be in that state of mind and I would not know about it. I just felt so blindsided by all of it. But I'm not obviously blaming myself. There are a lot of things in her life that were upsetting, and actually, her conversations with me helped her in a lot of ways to not be so miserable. But the but but if I had only known how upset or sad she really was, if I had been aware and being able to have real empathy for her and really listen to her, that maybe she would have felt heard and loved and not been in so much fear. I don't know. I can't say that that's the truth, but I did that from that time on. I said I am not going to have a a relationship with anybody ever again in my life where they have to hide their feelings from me because of their fear for what's going to happen or whatever reason. I don't want to have relationships like that. I want my relationships to be close and whole and loving. And so it changed me. It shifted me completely. And, I was not the same kind of person back then. I was very self-centered. And what can I say? Karen, please go ahead.
I'll make it quick because I know you have a husband's birthday to attend to. I just want to say thank you, thank you, because your sister was your greatest teacher. She taught you, and now you learned that lesson, and you will not ever let that happen again, because now you see the value in everything, and you wouldn't allow that to happen again. So it's all for us to learn. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, Karen. Thank you. And happy birthday, Karen.
Happy birthday, Karen. Hey,
Karen,
Lynn,
it's your birthday?
Well,
can I say
yesterday was Audrey's birthday, and tomorrow is my birthday.
All right, let's
No.
just sing
No,
real fast.
No,
Happy
my
birthday.
husband.
Happy
Oh, your
birthday.
husband. I thought it was your birthday. I'm
No.
sorry. So today's Lynn's husband's birthday. Tomorrow's my
Yesterday was
birthday, and
mine.
yesterday was
Okay.
Audrey's husband's birthday.
Karen, are you going out tomorrow? Because are you going to be in the group tomorrow?
I am going out tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not going to be in the group.
Okay, but at least I know it's your birthday. I don't know, because the thing is, you're not on Facebook, are you?
No,
Okay.
not on
good for
Facebook.
you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lynn, I need to say one thing about Saturday. They're having that awakening conference Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna be at the conference. I won't be
Okay.
at the group Saturday morning.
That's fine with me. And enjoy yourself with those guys because they're a wonderful group of people as well.
Well, it's not
I'm
fun.
just traveling that day,
You guys
but
are saying.
I'll be probably in the room. I'll just listen on my earphones.
We're
I'm
all
going to
like,
Philly.
okay, Lynn, can you go and can we all still talk?
Oh, sure.
Bye, Lynn. Go celebrate. Bye, bye. Happy birthday,
Have a good time,
Richard.
Lynn.
Thank
Happy
you,
birthday to your
everyone.
husband.
Love you.
All
I
right.
love you.
Love you guys. Happy birthday, Karen. Love them
you guys
Scorpios.
so much.
Hey,
Thank
Doug,
you. Sorry, I
Nicole,
just,
Audrey,
Bye,
everybody have a
guys.
great
I
night.
love you.
Corinne,
Thank you.
Corinne.
Corinne.